habit of focusing on lack more than abundance. That's a habit that will keep people poor in 2025. Another habit, focusing on limitations more than abilities. But I'm not good at, and then you fill in the blank, as if somebody's going to take out a violin and start playing a sad song for you. Nobody's good at everything. If you have enough cognitive ability to understand what I'm talking about right now, you know enough to learn more. So focused on what you can't do that you're not doing what you can do. You create your habits, and then your habits create you. Abundance is not the absence of lack, and lack is not the absence of abundance. Abundance is always present in the presence of lack, and lack is always present in the presence of abundance. They're both always there. It's virtually impossible for lack to perpetually exist in your experience unless it first perpetually exists in your expectation. It is one of the primal temptations of man to focus more on lack than we do abundance. We're listening to the wrong voice. Guess what was in the Garden of Eden? Abundance and lack. And there was more abundance than there was lack. There was an abundance of abundance and a limited amount of lack. Satan got Eve to focus on the thing that she lacked. That was the first temptation. Where do thoughts come from? Well, they come from ourselves. They come from God. They come from Satan. They come from other people. They come from experiences, and they come from memories, right? So that's where, so if you got thoughts coming from all these different places, would it not behoove us to be able to recognize immediately when a thought is coming from Satan? Wouldn't that not be beneficial for all of us? Okay, so how can I tell when a thought's coming from Satan? I'm going to give them to you really quickly. Number one, it causes you to focus on discontentment and dissatisfaction. When you find yourself being discontented or dissatisfied, you are listening to the voice of Satan. You're operating based on a thought that was sown in your mind by the enemy. A war on words is a war on your mind. This is a satanic thought, denying the destruction of disobedience. Like here's what that thought looks like. Oh, nobody's watching. I can get away with this. They'll never know. No, but you'll know, and God will know. You think you're being sneaky because you look to the left and look to the right, but you forgot to look up. We see this over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like when we become dissatisfied and discontented, what happens is we end up losing the blessings that we could have. Where attention goes, intention follows. He wants you to doubt that God has your best interest in mind. He wants you to think that your friends are your enemies and your enemies are your friends. He wants you to be for what's against you and against what's for you. Those are all satanic thoughts. Maybe the reason lack seems to be fruitful and multiplying in your life is because you're so focused on what's missing and ignoring what's there. Feel like you've got more lack in your life than you do abundance. It's because you are the more aware of the abundance, the more aware you become of the abundance that you already have, the more abundance becomes available to you. Why? Everything reproduces after its own kind. So the habit of focusing on lack more than abundance, I'm telling you, you're so focused on what's missing. Here's what you're thinking when I'm saying this right now. If this is you, you're thinking, yeah, it's easy for you to say, keeping it real. You will excuse yourself out of becoming the person you have to be to tap into the abundance that's existed your whole life. You remember the story about Hagar, don't you? She's in the desert. She puts her son under a shrub. He's about to die of thirst in the desert. She starts crying. And the angel of the Lord comes and says, what you crying about, Hagar? What kind of question is that to ask a single mom in the desert with a child and no water? You know what kind of question it is? A good question. What you crying about? For God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Go pick him up, hold him in your hands. God's going to make him a great nation. Go read Genesis chapter 17. You'll see it. It's mind blowing. And guess what it says after that? God opened her eyes and she saw a well of water, filled the bottle, and gave the lad drink. So her problem was not a lack of water. What was her problem? A lack of awareness of the water. If he opened her eyes and she saw a well of water, what does that tell us about the water? It was already there. She's so focused on the fact, she's so zoned in on a bottle, which is a whole lot smaller than a well, that she can't see the well. And the well could fill the bottle. And she couldn't see the water in front of her eyes because of the water that was welling up in her eyes. How often is that you? How often is that me? We're so focused on what's there that we refuse to strengthen the things that remain.